The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the parking lot of Willow Creek Elementary, where parents clustered in neat rows of cars, waiting for their children to spill out of the double doors. Laughter and chatter drifted from the playground nearby, but not everyone waiting felt the ease of the moment. Ethan Cole sat stiffly behind the wheel of his sedan, hands gripping the steering wheel harder than necessary. Though it had been 3 years since he returned from his final deployment, the habits of war never fully left him. He scanned the lot like he would a perimeter, eyes flicking from vehicle to vehicle, noting movements, logging exits. To most, it was just another Tuesday afternoon. To Ethan, every horn, every sudden shout, every slamming door carried the weight of memory. His daughter, Lily, was everything that tethered him to this quieter life. 8 years old, with hair the same warm brown as her late mother's, she was the one reason Ethan forced himself through the haze of insomnia and the jagged edges of PTSD. She needed him present, not drifting in nightmares or hiding from crowds. Picking her up from school was his daily ritual, a way to remind her and himself that he was here, alive, reliable. But the stares never stopped. Other parents whispered, their eyes lingering on the tall, broad-shouldered man who rarely smiled and often looked too tense for a schoolyard. He knew what they saw. The widower who lost his wife to cancer while he was still learning how to live as a civilian again. The veteran who carried scars no one could see. Some pitied him. Others avoided him altogether. That day, Ethan arrived earlier than usual. He liked to be in place before the rush, so he wouldn't feel the crush of bodies pressing against him. He parked near the back, rolled down the window, and tried to breathe steadily. As dismissal neared, a police cruiser rolled into the lot, its engine louder than necessary, drawing attention. Officer Mark Danner stepped out, adjusting his belt with an air of casual arrogance. He was the type who thrived on being noticed, broad frame, mirrored sunglasses, a swagger in every step. Danner had been assigned to the school as part of the district's safety program, but everyone knew he enjoyed the authority more than the responsibility. Ethan noticed him instantly. His body stiffened the way it used to before patrols, adrenaline spiking without permission. The uniform, the weapon, the posture, all of it triggered memories. Ethan forced himself to exhale, reminding himself this wasn't a battlefield. Children began pouring from the doors, running into the arms of their waiting parents. Ethan's focus softened the moment Lily appeared, backpack bouncing, smile bright. She spotted him and waved enthusiastically, her joy cutting through the weight on his chest. For a moment, he let himself smile back. But as Lily ran toward him, Officer Danner's gaze fell on Ethan. The smirk that spread across the cop's face told Ethan trouble was about to find him. The kind of trouble that didn't come from gunfire, but from ignorance. And in a schoolyard full of parents and children, that ignorance was about to make a spectacle. Lily slowed her run as she neared her father, her grin fading slightly when she noticed the way Officer Danner lingered near their car. The cop leaned against his cruiser with casual arrogance, chewing gum, one hand resting on his belt like he was posing for an audience. His sunglasses reflected the crowd, but Ethan felt the weight of the man's eyes locked squarely on him. "Hey!" Danner called out loudly, his voice carrying across the lot. "Don't tell me you're here to pick up a kid. Thought guys like you couldn't handle the noise." A few parents turned, uneasy smiles tugging at their lips. Some looked away quickly, pretending not to hear. Others lingered, curious. Ethan didn't answer. He focused on Lily, gently resting a hand on her shoulder as she reached him. "Ready to go, kiddo?" His voice was calm, measured, the same tone he used when he needed to ground himself. But Danner wasn't finished. He took a step closer, grinning as if he'd found the day's entertainment. "You know, people talk. Say you sit out here every afternoon like you're casing the place. Makes folks nervous. Guess it's hard coming back and all. Can't tell a school from a combat zone. Huh?" Lily froze, her wide eyes flicking between her father and the officer. Ethan felt the tension rise in her small frame, and it stabbed at him deeper than any insult. He could take the mockery. He'd endured worse from drill sergeants and insurgents alike. But to have his daughter watch it? that cut into places even war hadn't reached. Parents shifted uncomfortably. A few whispered, but none stepped forward. The stigma of PTSD was a shadow they didn't want to stand in. Ethan was used to it, the assumptions, the sideways glances. But Danner's voice wasn't a whisper. It was loud, deliberate, meant to humiliate. "You're jumpy, right?" Danner pressed on, circling slightly. "Bet every time a locker slams you dive for cover. Tell me, do you keep your windows boarded up at night too?" Poor kid. Must be tough growing up with a dad who flinches at shadows. Lily's cheeks flushed. She clutched Ethan's sleeve tightly, her voice small. "Daddy, can we go?" Ethan's jaw tightened. He wanted to walk away, to shield her from the cruelty, but every instinct told him that retreat would only embolden the bully in uniform. Years of service had taught him that predators only stopped when faced head-on. He turned slowly, his posture still calm, but his eyes locked on Danner's with a steadiness that made the officer falter for just a second. Ethan's voice was low, controlled. "That's enough." The words weren't shouted, but the authority in them silenced the air around them. Even some parents straightened, as though reminded of something they hadn't seen before, the presence of a man who had led others through fire. But Danner, unwilling to lose his stage, chuckled dismissively. "Relax, hero. Just having a little fun." He leaned in closer, dropping his voice but not enough to keep the crowd from hearing. "You might scare these parents, but you don't scare me." Lily pressed closer to Ethan's side, and in that moment, Ethan realized something. Danner had made a mistake, because the officer thought he was mocking a broken man. But soon, he would learn the truth about who exactly Ethan Cole was. The crowd around the parking lot had grown quieter. Parents lingered with their children, pretending to fumble with backpacks or car doors. But their eyes kept drifting back to the standoff between the uniformed officer and the widowed veteran. Lily clung to her father's hand, her small fingers trembling, while Officer Danner smirked as though he'd already won. Ethan straightened slowly, his shoulders squaring in a way that made him look taller, steadier. He had spent years hunched under invisible weight, but in that moment, something shifted. His voice carried across the lot. Not loud, not aggressive, but firm, each word measured like a gavel striking wood. "You think you know me, officer," Ethan began, his gaze steady. "But you don't," Danner scoffed, rolling his shoulders. "Oh, I know your type. PTSD. Can't handle fireworks. Can't sleep. Walk around like you're still in the war zone. Everyone's supposed to tiptoe around you." He spread his hands, appealing to the onlookers. "Tell me I'm wrong." Silence followed. No one spoke up. Parents exchanged uncomfortable glances, but Ethan didn't flinch. Instead, he reached into his jacket pocket and withdrew a slim leather wallet. With deliberate calm, he flipped it open and held it up for all to see. The gold-embossed badge gleamed in the fading sunlight. "I'm Ethan Cole," he said evenly. "District Attorney for this county." The murmurs started instantly. Gasps, whispered exclamations, the sudden rustle of realization sweeping through the lot. Even the children sensed the shift, tugging at their parents' hands as the adults leaned forward, stunned. Danner froze, his smirk faltering. His jaw tightened as he tried to recover. "District Attorney?" His laugh was hollow, forced. "You're joking." Ethan didn't blink. "Do I look like I'm joking?" For the first time, Danner's swagger cracked. He glanced around, realizing every parent and teacher in earshot now had front-row seats to his mockery of the man who held authority over the very system he worked under. His words, once dripping with arrogance, now echoed back at him with a damning clarity. Ethan's voice dropped, not in volume but in weight. "I've prosecuted men for less than what you've done here today. You think mocking a veteran in front of his child is funny? You think humiliating a parent with PTSD makes you look strong?" He shook his head. "It only makes you look small." The crowd shifted, no longer passive observers. Some nodded faintly, others crossed their arms, the air thickening with judgment aimed squarely at Danner. The authority he had worn so smugly only moments ago now crumbled under the weight of Ethan's revelation. Danner opened his mouth, searching for footing, but no words came. His face reddened under the mirrored sunglasses, his confidence bleeding away as quickly as it had come. Ethan didn't raise his voice, but his final words carried like iron through the silence. "This is my county. These are my people. And that," he glanced down at Lily, then back at Danner, "is my daughter. I will not stand by while you try to make a spectacle of us." The balance of power had shifted, and for the first time, Officer Danner realized he wasn't the predator in this story. The silence that followed Ethan's words was heavy, pressing down on the parking lot like a storm about to break. Parents who had pretended not to hear now stood openly watching. Teachers near the doorway exchanged wide-eyed glances. Even the children, sensing something unusual, held their breath. Officer Danner's hand twitched at his belt, but he didn't dare reach for his radio. His smirk was gone, replaced by a tight-lipped grimace. He muttered, "This is ridiculous." But the words rang hollow, carrying none of the bravado he'd flaunted minutes earlier. Ethan didn't move toward him. He didn't need to. Authority radiated from his posture, the calm certainty of a man who had survived worse than insults. He looked past Danner to the parents gathered around. "You all heard him," he said. "This is how an officer of the law chose to treat a parent in front of his child. This is not the standard our community deserves." The crowd murmured, voices rising in agreement. One mother near the front crossed her arms and shook her head. A father stepped forward slightly, saying under his breath, "Shameful." Others nodded, their silence turning into a quiet wave of disapproval directed squarely at Danner. Lily squeezed her father's hand, her small voice cutting through the tension. "Daddy, can we go home now?" Ethan looked down at her, his expression softening instantly. He crouched to her level, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yeah, kiddo, we're going home." His voice gentled in a way that contrasted sharply with the steel he had just wielded. Then he rose and faced Danner one last time. His tone was even professional, the voice of the prosecutor rather than the soldier. "Officer Danner, expect a call from my office. There will be a formal inquiry into your conduct. What happened here will not be buried." Danner's face flushed crimson beneath his sunglasses. He wanted to argue, but the crowd was no longer on his side. Every pair of eyes was watching, judging, recording this moment in memory. With a frustrated huff, he turned sharply and stalked back toward his cruiser. The slam of the door was louder than necessary, a brittle sound that only underscored his defeat. Ethan opened the car door for Lily, helping her climb in. As he walked around to the driver's side, he felt dozens of gazes following him. But this time, they weren't whispers of pity or suspicion. They were looks of respect, of quiet admiration. Parents nodded subtly as he passed. Teachers offered small, approving smiles. For Ethan, the moment wasn't about public vindication. It was about Lily. She had seen him mocked, yes, but she had also seen him stand tall, unbroken, and reclaim their dignity. That mattered more than any badge or title. As they drove away, the school fading in the rearview mirror, Lily leaned against her seat, her voice soft but certain. "I'm proud of you, Daddy." Ethan's throat tightened, but he managed to smile. "And I'm proud of you, kiddo." The road stretched ahead, quiet and calm. For once, there were no battlefields in his mind, no shadows pressing against the edges of peace. Just the simple rhythm of tires on pavement, his daughter's presence beside him, and the steady knowledge that he had faced down ignorance, not with anger, but with truth. And in that moment, Ethan Cole wasn't just a widower or a veteran, or even the district attorney. He was simply a father, and that was enough.